Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at MS Dynamics World. On this episode, we are recapping the recent Community Summit North America event, the annual user conference focused on education, networking, and discovery. I'm joined on this episode by Mary Miller and Sam Johnson of PayTrace, who return to share some of their own highlights, observations, and experiences coming out of Summit. PayTrace is the sponsor of this episode, and this was the firm's second year as an exhibitor at Summit. We discuss user priorities that the PayTrace team heard about from booth visitors, including increasing automation, decreasing complexity of multiple solutions, and planning for cloud ERP for those who still run older on-premises systems. Mary and Sam also reflect on how different roles within Dynamics customer organizations are approaching their future technology needs, and they offer some updates on what's coming next from PayTrace. All right, I'm here with Sam and Mary from PayTrace. It's great to have both of you back today. Why don't we start with just a bit of an introduction from each of you so our listeners get to meet you or remember who you are from past episodes. Mary, do you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks, Jason. It's always great to be here and have a conversation with you about what's going on in the dynamic space. For those who don't know me, I'm Mary Miller. I'm the Director of Marketing at PayTrace. And while I've been at PayTrace a little over a year and a half, I've been in the Microsoft channel for quite some time, even dating back to being a user many years ago. So it's exciting to be back and part of the conversation. Thanks for having us, Jason. Great
to have you. And hey, Sam.
Hey, Jason. It's great to be back. My name's Sam Johnson. I'm the Partner Success Manager at PayTrace, and I've got more of the opposite experience of Mary. I've been with PayTrace now for just under a decade, but more or less in the Microsoft community for about a year and a half. So we've got both sides of the coin covered there.
Great. Well, as I was saying before, it's great to have you both back. We've talked in the recent past before the Community Summit event, and Mary, you and I even talked at the event. I don't think I caught up with you there, Sam, but this is a great chance to sort of talk beyond an event like that and some of the things, I guess, retrospectively and looking forward to. So yeah, maybe we can just start with some highlights and lessons learned from the conference. Mary, do you want to share your view on that?
Yeah, sure, Jason. It was really interesting it's always fun, right? It's like coming home. You get to, meet with your friends and people that you've worked with and partnered with for many years and really just kind of catch up on kind of what's going on in the space. But I also find it interesting in what we hear from, end users, those that we had conversations with at the booth. And I think there's probably three categories that I would summarize the feedback that I heard into. And those are sort of consolidation, simplicity, and single source. And I'll describe a little bit about what I mean by each of those. But I hear a lot of consolidation of tasks into more and more roles. It's like the market is becoming more educated about the value of automation and the efficiencies they can gain. And I feel like we've been telling this story for many years on many different departments and aspects of the finance and accounting world. But I think it's finally resonating as people are looking at cloud solutions, as people are looking at upgrading and migrating into new environments. Consolidating the tasks that they're able to automate was definitely a key point that a lot of people mentioned, is making it simple, which kind of leads into my next point of simplicity. And one of the things that we heard there, was really, can I do whatever these tasks are within my ERP system? How many different systems do I have to log into? And I think we've talked about that from a perspective of our solution in the past, but it's really, I think, important when we hear it directly from end users to say, I want to work in one system. I don't want to have to log into multiple different environments, to the extent that I'm able to consolidate and make my user experience very, very simple. And then to have a single source for as many solutions as possible, I think kind of ties both of those first 2 points together a little bit. But I think organizations are finding that if there's a lot of different providers they have to work with, even if they're all recommended by the same partner, it still puts the onus on them for things like customer support, checking on updates, checking on compatibility if they're going to upgrade their current version of their ERP system. How many different places do I have to go to make sure that I've got all of my boxes checked, so to speak, of everything's going to work nicely? And once I do upgrade my ERP system, I'm going to have all of my supporting extensions or supporting ISV solutions that live in that same environment and are also certified, compatible, upgraded, at the same time. So I think that consolidation of effort, simplicity of the user experience, and going to a single source is certainly a highlight of some of the things that we heard.
So Sam, can you identify maybe some of the hot topics that you picked up on and how they were affecting your team or the customers you were hearing from?
One thing that was interesting from my personal perspective is usually when I work with folks in this space, it's very partner facing. I don't get to interact very often directly with the users. So with Summit, it was primarily users that were coming up to our booth in our space and kind of had this prepared, but really the hot topics that a lot of these users were facing were GP users today, or even SL users that were coming up to us. And it seemed like they were planning, over the next year and a half, what their plan was to migrate away into whatever their next ERP system looks like, whether that's, BC or F&O or something else. And how that related to us at PayTrace was pretty interesting, because when you're kind of revamping your entire ERP system and you're upgrading that, it's a really great opportunity to look into a lot of your other processes that you may have had wrapped into your previous software, or just some areas that you can identify where you can improve. And a big one with that is definitely financials, right? And AR being a large part of that. So we got to have a lot of really great conversations with a lot of these, GP users about, well, what are you doing right now with your AR processes? How are you getting paid? How long does it take you to get paid? And what does that look like? And we were able to have a lot of really great conversations and even doing a little bit of education, as well as learning ourselves about some of the pain points that they're seeing and how they can better wrap that into, whether it's going to be BC or another process moving forward, and really manage that cash flow.
Interesting. Yeah. And that's one of the things I wonder about too. I'd love to dive a little more into that. Do GP customers, especially who perhaps have been living with a certain process for a while and living with GP's capabilities and limitations, do they come to you sort of knowing this is a pain point, this should work better than it does today, it's too inefficient? Or do they kind of just come to you with, here's our status quo and we'll just tell you about it and you can tell me if we could do better?
I'll hop on this one, Mary, but I'd like to hear your perspective as well. From my perspective, when I do have those types of conversations, it's kind of a mix of both, Jason, where, a lot of the times it's we've been using GP for the last 15 plus years. We've been doing it this way. It ain't broke, don't fix it. And now they're kind of forced to have to look into different options. But a lot of the times they come to us, whereas, our slogan is we're the B2B payment experts, where it's much more of a consultation, like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is our current state. Please provide some guidance, help us navigate this. What are you seeing businesses like us doing? What are some best practices? How can we consume your product and make our operations a lot better?
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Sam. And I'd also add that, by and large, GP customers are resistant to change. I'll put myself in this bucket. We are, maybe of a little bit more mature demographic. We've maybe been using this system for a very long time. And to your point of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, there's also this mentality of I'm going to have to redo everything that I do in my accounting system, perhaps, right? I've got to revisit, at least to realign, perhaps restructure my GL accounts. My accounting structure now might have different elements, might have what's known as dimensions in Business Central, whereas GL segments are a little bit more traditional in the GP world. So like when you think about, it's not just the technology, it's the way that you fundamentally operate your accounting structure. That's more than a notion. That isn't just upgrading, to the latest version that's available on your phone of a new operating system, let's just say, that happens in a matter of seconds. This takes time. It takes methodology. It takes comparing apples to apples to make sure that your accounting structure and financial statements, financial processes align with this new system that you're potentially moving to. So I think there's also this element of, hey, we have been using this a long time and it's been working. So we've really got to get out of our comfort zone to say, I'm going to make this change for my business because it's the right thing to do, not just because GP now has an end of life that's, in the view, even though it's still several years out. It's in the purview of what we can see today from a timing standpoint. So we have to start thinking about those decisions and what that looks like for our organization. And so that resistance to change, I think, comes into play just on a human level, right? We all want to be able to do the things that we're most comfortable with. However, once we see, and once GP users and SL users see what a new system can also offer you. I don't have to maintain the servers anymore. I don't have to think about when I'm going to upgrade, do I need to test all of these different elements? Those things are now going to be available and certified within the Business Central sphere or within the F&O sphere. Once you move to a truly cloud-based accounting system, an ERP system, all of those boxes have to be checked before you even make that upgrade. And it will be available. They will be available for you in the ecosystem that you choose to move to. It kind of comes along with all the benefits of the cloud, right? You don't have to worry about the servers, the infrastructure, the protocol that goes into managing all of that on your own. So you really get kind of the best of both worlds, but it is hard to change. So I think we just need to be sensitive to that and meet people where they are and understand what their goals are and make sure that we can support them if and when they're ready to move.
One thing that I observed that's maybe a bit related to that, and I don't know if this was just a one-off thing, or maybe you saw something similar, was I talked to one customer. They're currently using GP, and it was two members of the IT team, and same company. One of them on their event badge or conference badge had Dynamics GP as their focus area, and the other one, this was like an IT director, and then I believe one of his team members had Business Central on their badge as their focus for the event. And
that's funny. Yeah,
it was really interesting, and I don't know if it was just a bit of a sort of specific thing for their organization, but it's sort of, in talking to them, they kind of confirmed they were splitting up their attention at the event, one to learn about BC and one to focus on sort of GP. Did you see anything like that where people were sort of midway through, or any other insights maybe, Mary, related to sort of where the community is at?
Yeah, I think it is interesting. And we definitely saw that. And I don't know if I saw the same company that you're referring to, but perhaps others did the same sort of, I'm going to take this approach, you're going to take that approach in terms of what we're going to learn about. But it's definitely a matter of, where your focus is and what your role is in the process too, right? If you're the IT person that supports the existing applications, then you're probably representing GP. If you're on maybe the modernization team or whatever they might be called within your organization, or the upgrade or the future IT infrastructure, all of those sorts of things, then you're more likely to be on the Business Central or another cloud-based solution as kind of your focus area. And I think what's interesting is that people are just trying to educate themselves as much as possible, because in the GP world, right, they came with a list of these are my 12 ISVs that I have to have in order to extend the value of my usage of GP. So they come thinking, do I need those same 12 in, let's just take Business Central, for example, or does Business Central do things differently, more or less, right, that would support me having the same or different or maybe additional ISVs as part of my solution set, perhaps that I'm not even aware of yet. So that whole, I want to soak in as much education as possible, regardless of what my role is, so that I know what to expect. I think we're at a pivotal point in that decision-making. To Sam's point of the next 18 months to 2 years is going to be really critical because people are doing their homework now and they want to be able to gather that, what do I need for this? What do I need for that? And do I have a plan for the next couple of years where maybe I do need to maintain kind of status quo while I'm planning? Does that mean dual use? Does that mean multiple licenses? Does that mean parallel running of additional systems to be able to say, I will be able to move confidently into that new ERP world compared to what I'm doing today? So yeah, I definitely saw that kind of, I want to educate myself about both sets of opportunities from a technical and a business perspective as well, Jason. It's interesting to see that evolve. I think over the next couple of years will be a lot of fun.
I'll echo what Mary just said. Talking with a lot of the audience there at Summit, it seemed like a lot of folks had that similar plan of, we're going to have to operate multiple systems at the same time, have a little bit of redundancy for a bit. It's going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some scaling that's going to take place and a lot of learning. That's going to be pretty disruptive for a lot of companies over the next couple of years, right? Having to learn, having to manage multiple different solutions. I think one company that stood out to me, they said that they're not planning to launch they're going to BC for about 1.5 to 2 years, but they're going to get their license in the next, I think, 6 months so that they can really spend a good year plus getting everything set up so that it runs smoothly by the time they officially launch that. So it is going to be a very interesting next 12 to 24 months, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a really, what would you call that? Just a very responsible approach, Sam, that you were just describing there, with a lot of forethought and thoughtfulness, I guess you would say, to how that an organization like that is trying to approach this, like really, really carefully, right? And not miss anything and not rush, but also not delay. Well, Sam, let me put this question to you. Can you give any other sort of retrospective as a second-time exhibitor at the event? What else have you gathered from it?
I think I'll tackle this personally and more in the lens of PayTrace. Mary, please add on. Personally, right? I'm more the newbie in the dynamics space, but I can tell you that PayTrace has had a lot of brand recognition, and I think that lends itself to Mary Miller. She's wonderful at what she does, but also just in the space, PayTrace, where we may be a little bit newer on the forefront in the dynamics community, we aren't necessarily a new player in the payment space. We've been doing this for 20 years. And what was really refreshing, and we might have mentioned this on a previous podcast, Jason, was we had a lot of users that were current customers of PayTrace long before we started working in the community space. And these are PayTrace customers that weren't even using us embedded into dynamic solutions. They were using PayTrace more of a standalone payment solution for however they were taking payments at the time, and still continue to be. We had massages at the booth this year. If you were there, if any of you guys listened to the pre-summit podcast, but we had a couple gals that were in there. They came back, I think, a couple times, but they've been PayTrace users for 7+ years, and they were raving about us and really looking forward to, how can they improve their processes even further with some of these tools that we're coming out with. What was really nice about kind of the timing of this was that about a week prior, Mary, maybe 2 weeks prior, we got announced that our Business Central integration was published on AppSource. So that was huge, right? We could actually demo that. We could have more conversations. We had products to be able to show and interact with a lot of these users. So having that growth and seeing that kind of scale within PayTrace and was really nice and refreshing to be able to see on this one. And then also, I'll add to kind of the company perspective. We've added a lot more dynamics expertise on our team since I think the last summit that we were at. We've got Mary Miller and Jeremy Bogart, our vice president of product, but this year we added a lot of relationship managers that have a lot of ERP experience. We added more people to our sales team and to our partnerships team that have been working in this space for a long time. So it was really cool being able to see a lot of partners that they've had relationships for the past, 5-10 years, and being able to just have conversations like they've known each other for so long was really nice to see. So that's how I'd compare this year to the previous years.
Just to build a little bit more on what Sam was just describing, I think the testament to the market leadership and respect that PayTrace has in the market, and again, he has the legacy experience with PayTrace, and so he can speak from a product expertise, long-term, been training partners for a while, and I bring that. I've had a long-term relationships with a lot of these partners, and to bring them into the PayTrace payments world, I think where those two worlds merge is just a true testament to the fact that the PayTrace has been a leader in the market for a really long time. 40,000 customers is a testament to that. So seeing that experience really come to life at Summit is really just kind of, again, bringing the best of both worlds together, where you do have those relationships and say, hey, here's what, what we're doing now. Let's continue the conversation, even though it's about a different product, potentially a different solution, a different mindset, maybe a different educational track that partners are trying to educate their customers about. But being able to kind of close the loop with a lot of different solutions that we have been, had in kind of the behind the scenes role of the payment process for so many years, to bring that to the forefront is just a really exciting, and to leverage the relationships that Sam was just alluding to with other members that we've brought on to the team. We had one person come up to us and say, I can only work with somebody that has this person on their team. So it's just really exciting to see that level of commitment and loyalty. And again, just respect for the brand and the people on the team that really bring it to life is exciting. So I think we've come a long way in the last year from last year's summit to this year's. And to Sam's point also that we had the massages in the booth, we had people waiting, 15, 20 minutes. They'd be like, I'll come back. Is it my turn yet? So, we had to start texting them when their spot was ready. But I think the whole message there really is, relax, we've got your back. And we've got your back, not just from, having massages in the booth. Of course, that's great in the moment, but we also have your back when we look forward to B2B payments and everything that means for you today and what it could mean for you in the future. So.
Yeah, it really aligns with sort of the journeys that these companies are on, right? And really agrees with it, which is pretty good. All right. Well, before we close out, I wanted to sort of look forward, right? And maybe, Mary, I'll give this one to you. What else can people look forward to? What can they expect to be learning from PayTrace out in the community? What will they be hearing in the near future?
Yeah, it's so exciting. If we look at, like we just talked about the where we've come in the last year, where we're going in the next, what people will see in the next 6 to 12 months is equally as exciting, Jason. The next step for our solution is to, really continue to round out features and enhancements in the accounts receivable automation, collections management, visibility into your cash flow. I think what's unique about us is because we have so much of the payment data, and Sam, I'd love your thoughts on this too, but because we have so much of the payment data, we can give them visibility into the percentage of, which types of payments are coming into their business, at what speed, by which sources, all of the different elements that, you're collecting payments, via credit card, via ACH. And of course, 60% of B2B companies are still sending a paper check. Hopefully we'll work to reduce that among, all of our customers and with our partners, through our partners to those customers as well. But in addition to helping that go digital mindset become part of the DNA of the Dynamics community users and partners, we also want them to look into what can they use that data for to help make better financial decisions. How do they want to invest? How do they want to finance their cash, so to speak? Do they want to finance their accounts receivable? What can they do to accelerate those receivable components based on the data that we're able to present to them? So beyond the accounts receivable automation and collecting credit card and ACH payments and other digital forms of payments, what can they use that data for? So we want to give them that 360-degree view into their AR collections. We want to give them that full visibility into their reconciliation process so that they can more quickly identify exceptions, that they can more quickly identify where there might be opportunities to really leverage their cash flow for business growth. And so we're going to continue to enhance those products to support that. And we look to this community for feedback and insight as to what else they want to see, whether it's partners giving us early feedback, whether it's customers. And we heard a ton of this on the floor. Can it do this? Will it do that? And some of those things we're able to say yes to today, of course. And some of those things we had our VP of product, as Sam just mentioned, Jeremy was there and his product management team was there to hear, those points of feedback, those requests, those enhancement suggestions to say, that's great. We just, heard that from some other folks as well. So we want to be able to build those things into the roadmap based on firsthand feedback from the user community and the partners as well. So I think continue to look for that, what I'll call, instead of artificial intelligence, financial intelligence, as you'll be able to see through the set of PayTrace solutions that continues to evolve in the dynamic space.
One more thing, Mary, maybe you could add to this. One of the things that we were finding at the show was that we had a lot of customers currently that were probably working with partners that we may or may not have relationships today.
Good point.
If, I know we have some tools where we can actually compare mutual customers. Do you want to share any of that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Sam. And it's something that we actually encourage partners to do, again, whether we've worked with you in a past life or in a different organizational role, or maybe you were at a different partner in a former life as well. What we have found is that if we look at our customers and our partners' customers, we have tools that are completely secure and private that help us identify mutual customers. And that's what a lot of our partners are actually taking advantage of, to say, let's start with those that came to our booth, right? They're working with a partner already. So let's bridge that gap and find more of them, right? Let's identify the partners, the customers that we have in common with our partners as sort of a next step. And then we can build out that partner relationship based on customer usage, case studies, testimonials from those people that are actually, working with both of us already. And it's a great way to open the door because it's a way less threatening for a partner to come into a new relationship with maybe an ISV or a solution provider that they don't have a lot of history with directly with the company, and say, let's start with common ground. And those customers are already, to Sam's point, already using us, already fans, already raving about the solutions that they do use. So that's going to be a lot easier conversation to have for those partners that want to, open the door into those customer relationships when we identify which ones are in common together. And we make it super easy and, would love to welcome that conversation from any partners who are interested in learning more as well.
I'll just add, Mary, looking forward thinking, we did just get published on AppSource for this kind of first iteration of this BC integration. You threw out something that I think is really important in that our product team wants to have conversations with partners. We want to have conversations with partners because we do want to build this out so that it is checking the boxes. It does take into account what your users are asking for. So we'd love to set up, whether it's lunch and learns, product demos, you name it, just first date conversations, really just to get a better temperature check on, where we can fit in. We understand there's a lot of payment tools out there right now. There's a lot of AR platforms and there's kind of space for everybody. So where others might not fit the needs that you need, we may, vice versa. We may not have everything today and other partners might, but we just like to have that conversation. So if you would like to schedule something, please, door is wide open.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a great point. And they can learn more, Jason, in, lots of different areas. I'm sure you'll include in the description our, links to our website. But we also talk a lot about, the industry issues from an educational perspective on our blogs and in our white papers. So we would encourage both partners and end users in the Dynamics community to check that out and just, reach out when they're ready if they have questions. Again, we'll meet you where you are.
Yeah, and for sure you're likely to find something very relatable. I would say in some of those other places. We'll certainly share links to relevant resources in the show notes, as you said, Mary. Well, as always, a lot of fun catching up with both of you and hearing about what you've been up to and what we have planned. I think it's pretty exciting. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks for having us.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Mary and Sam for joining me. To learn more about PayTrace, we'll put a link in the show notes to their latest white paper and to the PayTrace blog. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, send me an email, jason@msdynamicsworld.com. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.